Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of IPAC News Network. My name is Rajneesh and I am the editor of IPAC News Network. Welcome to the third Global Education and Skills Conclave, and today is the third day of it. We have had some overwhelming participation and response to this program over the last couple of days, watched by 3,000 plus educators, both from school and higher education. On the first day, we had an inaugural session attended by senior policymakers, education secretaries from central level and different state level, industry people who are working in education, and different education bodies like CBSE, ICT, and Quality Council of India, and the likes. Then, over the 2 days, we had parallel tracks on higher education and schools. Over 2 days, we had 26 panel discussions where educators from both higher education and schools discussed different facets and challenges, especially in a post pandemic world, which education is having. Before I introduce a very esoteric set of panelists who are there today, it might makes sense to once again acknowledge our partners for this program, without whose support an event of this magnitude might not have been possible. So we have been supported by the Education Department of states of Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttarakhand, government sponsors including AICTE, Quality Council of India. We had also CBSE. Then from Country Innovation Partner, we had Innovation Norway. We had Dell and Intel as our presenting partners, Microsoft as a technology partner, ViewSonic as a co-powering partner, Samsung as a display partner. Then we had Fortinet as a security partner, MapMy India, Finance Peer as our associate partners. We had APJ Education as our education partner, the Jaipuria Group of Schools as a school group partner, UniApply as our admission partner, and Glendale Academy, Central Public School, and Global India Schools as our school partner. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists today. So we have with us on the panel today Mr. Sanjay Datta, Principal Maharana Mewar Public School, Udaipur. Welcome, Sanjay.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
have
sir.
with us, welcome. We have with us Ma'am Kavita Singh, Principal Ram Ratna Vidya Mandir from Thane. Welcome, Kavita ma'am.
Namaste.
We have with us Sri Rajesh Vasudevan, Head of School, Manchester International School, Coimbatore. Welcome, Rajesh.
A
We
very good
have
morning to all of you. Thank you so much.
welcome. We have with us Ma'am Debika Chatterjee, Director Principal, JBCN International School from
Good
Borivali,
morning,
Mumbai.
everyone. Good morning.
Morning. And we will be joined soon by Surekha MH, Principal of the Bharat Academy, Mangalore. And to moderate this discussion, we have with us Pratibha Mishra, Principal of Panbai International School in Mumbai. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, today we will be discussing the quality in education in the contemporary world scenario, the way ahead. And typically, what maybe we can request the panelists and the moderator to focus going forward. We are looking at a blended learning kind of that's inevitable after this post pandemic. But blended learning brings with it a lot of challenges for each stakeholder in education, be it the students, the faculties, the administration, and also in terms of the different technology like devices or quality of connectivity, there are challenges. So within these challenges, how can an uniform standardized education be imparted to the students. We would like maybe if these things can come up. So, without any further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Pratibha now to take forward this discussion. Over to you, Pratibha. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Rajesh. Thank you so much for lovely introduction and greetings to each and everyone, to all my panelists, to all my audience, and each and everyone directly, indirectly involved in this show to make it grand. So, as educators and all my panelists, you know very well, this pandemic has in this pandemic the education has transformed more in past 2 years than the decades combined. If you see the occurrence of this black swan event like COVID inspired the educators to innovate and transform. And we did that, right? I hope everyone will agree, especially my all the panelists. The education industry has transformed into technology powerhouse of delivering knowledge and believing this just started a new era to decode the contemporary education. I'm joined here by my expert panelists, and I have some really interesting questions for them. So here we go. Without wasting time, my first speaker of the session is Miss Kavita. The question goes to you. And then my first question is, what are some important factors to consider when innovating in the field of education? So floors is yours, Miss Kavita. You want me to repeat question or is fine?
No, Pratibha ma'am,
Yeah.
it's fine. Namaste everyone. Uh, this is just I would like to say there are many factors, but the important one here I would like to mention the cultural, right? The cultural differences is very much important. If everybody, will understand the cultural differences what we have, because we are talking about the global education, right? We are not talking only about one state or one place. So every state, every place has their own culture. So if we start, understanding that culture, if the system will understand the culture, if students will get to know, and so differences, will get automatically bridged, and that will be very helpful for education. I think so. The factors which is very important, according to me, is the cultural differences that has to be bridged.
Very nice. And I really go with you because this pandemic has really taught us how to maintain our cultural differences among the human. So, yes, I agree. And my next question goes to my Miss Sureka is not there. So, I'll give this question to Mr. Rajesh, if you don't mind. What are the characteristics of a leader in education innovations? I think this question is for touching to your heart. I can make out that. Yes, please. Unmute yourself, sir.
No, this is what I say, the old habits die hard. Like the last 2 years, you've been attending webinars and you keep muting yourself quite often. Thank you for that. Good morning, Ms. Pratibha, and all wonderful panelists here. I'm so honored to have been part of this. Uh, so when we talk about innovation, I'll just connect from the first question, then I can talk about the traits of a leader in innovation. When we're talking about innovation, definitely yes, we need to look into the how do we bridge the cultural gaps that might exist when we are trying to innovate every time. I also feel that innovation should happen when there is a relevance. If there is no relevance to what you're doing, then there's no point in innovating something. Like, for example, this COVID-19 or the pandemic that put the entire industry, the education fraternity at stake, we try to innovate many ways of keeping the journey happening without even taking a gap from it. Though whether we were appreciated or not is a different question. But what I'm saying is, yes, the relevance was the children did understand why are we doing what we are doing. Teachers who were not even ready to bring technology to the classrooms or not ready to give up the textbooks were forced to innovate new methods because they knew that the old traditional conventional style of teaching will not be relevant in a hybrid or an online classroom. So we did innovate. So innovation as always uh, keeps the relevance as a priority to what we are doing. If that be the case, one of the foremost traits of a leader in innovation is to have the adversity quotient high. We talk about aesthetic quotient, we talk about emotional quotient, we talk about spiritual quotient, so many intelligence quotient, IQ, so many things. But what I as a leader feel is, people often judge an individual with regard to his or her intellectual capacity and cognitive abilities. That's what we look at a leader as. We are misjudged by the assumption that someone's success is determined by their smartness or their intelligence. Of course, definitely, intelligence is indeed an integral part of excellence, but success is not only determined by one's achievements. Uh, when life threw at us threw a big challenge to us, how did we manage this challenge? What did we do to fight this challenge? How did we overcome this? We started bringing different names to it. We said it's a new normal. There's nothing new normal. It was a new opportunity for all of us. It was a new phase of life, and we just got into it so well. So this adversity quotient is very high, and leaders should have this entrepreneurial mindset. And this, because this is contagious, you can pass it on to your teachers in turn pass it on to the students. How do they embrace failure? How do they have this from the fixed mindset? How do they move to the growth mindset? So I think adversity quotient at a higher level, we take care of all these things. As a true leader in innovation, one, he should find a purpose in what he's doing. Two, he should be ready for all challenges, all times. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Rajesh, yes, very correct. You said that the purpose of what we are doing, the innovation with relevance, it is very much important. And when it comes to the educators, we cannot just blindly do anything. We should have a relevance in our doing and our action, because we are the role model for the society. And I feel it is a great message for everyone to take away. Whatever you are doing, it should be with the purpose. Without purpose, no point doing any hard work or anything which is not going to meet any expectations from the society or from a universe as well. So my next speaker, Devika ma'am, the question goes to you. What role do edtechs have to play in rapidly changing educational world with blended learning in post-pandemic scenario?
Um, First of all, good morning to everyone, all the fellow panelists, and good morning to you, Pratibha.
Good morning, ma'am.
I would like to say that every new idea that comes in, it has a trajectory of growth, and I think the pandemic has brought in so many new ideas that we have suddenly become innovators in all areas. And I feel that edtech is something that came to the fore during this time. However, in schools like ours, we have been working with technology in education for quite some time. It is a resource like any other. So we have different resources that we use in books. I remember a time as a teacher, as a young teacher, when we went to schools. I remember we would use something as small as rajma or chole to teach simple concepts of math and things to children. Those were resources also, and they did work very well. Today, we have at our fingertips so many wonderful resources which make life easy for us. However, the purpose remains the same. So, when we are talking about EdTech in education, it is more about using it so that the learning becomes deeper, the learning is more consolidated for our children, something that helps us to individualize learning. For example, we have some games that we use in our classes for math, and these games work at an individualized pace for our learners so that each learner can progress to the next level at their own pace, at their own comfort. Technology in education, I think, is great if it can be used for individualizing learning. It is also wonderful in a situation like ours where we can use it for flipped classrooms, for example, where learners become owners of their own learning and they can take things forward in a manner which is meaningful for them. It also helps us to ensure that no child in our school is left behind. So if they are not able to participate in face to face learning, synchronous learning, we can always send material to them through the asynchronous model. That has helped us throughout these months and months of the pandemic that we had to face. It also made easy for parents to become partners with us. The partnership between schools and homes, I think, is a great boon of the pandemic, because parents could actually see and understand what happens in our classrooms, the methods that we use, the transdisciplinary approach that we have, and they have appreciated it to no end, because now they don't have to ask us and try to understand with the best practices that we use in our classrooms. They can see it. It is at their fingertips, and it is in their homes, and they are able to understand the new uh, ways in which learning can happen. For example, I would like to share something very interesting that our teachers came up with. This was a grade 3 class, and it was about teaching them uh, writing in a sequential manner. The teachers came up, and this was a collaborative teaching experience, which is, of course, one of the innovations I would like to say that we all look for. Teachers got together. The English teacher asked them to make pizza. The art and craft teacher helped them to make pizza base. Of, obviously, they were not making a real pizza. They were doing it with the different materials available at home. So the art and craft teacher helped with that, the preparation of say slices of tomatoes and some cream, some cheese that they need to. So grated cheese was made with white pieces of paper and things like that. And the English teacher asked them to make the pizza. They actually understood the steps that go into making that pizza. The math teacher came in because she was talking to them and teaching them about halves and quarters and things like that. So the whole concept of learning through collaboration, learning through doing, and transdisciplinary understanding with focus on a fun way of doing things. So we were thinking that this is such a wonderful activity, because the teachers were online giving instructions, monitoring the children, but the children were not really sitting and staring at the screen. They were busy making their own pizza. They were busy putting it up and speaking to their classroom and telling them what half of their pizza looked like and what one quarter of their pizza looked like. And of course, they learned a lot of English sequential writing that we wanted them to understand. This could happen in a classroom in this situation only because we try to use technology to the best of our ability as a resource that underlines the work that happens in a classroom. So I think EdTech has a great role to play in the future also. Thank you very much for that wonderful question, Pratibha.
Yeah, Devika ma'am, when I know you personally also, I can feel this question was very close to you because you are a great innovator and I know
Thank you
how
so much.
things you do it in your school and that collaboration. When we talk about collaboration, really collaboration played a very vital role during this pandemic and we all got connected across the globe without any visa, without any shelling out money. And you see in this time our kids they got such a good exposure globally and they understood the importance and this collaborative teaching it's not only helped the students even the teachers across the globe the resources whatever we have and in fact the resources are now so handy that teachers just they have to be smart enough to use those resources and I feel we can use maximum so and as we Cambridge schools really we are blessed to have all these resources handy. I hope everyone will go with this. And as our schools are techno complete digital, it's really a boon to all of us. But then we as a educator, I feel it's not only up to us, we can bring this kind of change with the innovators in the underprivileged kids, those who are not getting this opportunity. And I feel we can give these resources to the teachers and the society and the underprivileged students because you know this can help them as well because as ma'am you connected so well that rajma chole and pizza I think kids can connect easily even I could connect, yes, even in my school days, we were having the same. So I feel all the teachers can do the same. I think Miss Surekha is joining. So, okay, so my next question goes to last but not the least, Mr. Sanjay. I think you were waiting for a long, and now question is to you. How is educational R&D structured and supported in the Indian environment?
You said R&D. Did you mention research and development there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now, first, great things because these are pointed questions. The NEP very clearly says that there is going to be a lot of research focus because, unfortunately, when we talk about educational technology, when we talk about how education should be imparted, we have very little empirical data to support what we are saying. So these are the initial theories of Froebel or maybe Maria that we go back to, and then from then on we try to build upon it with references to certain foreign researches that come in. So the other day I was to write, an article, so I quickly got into the, asking for research papers from various universities, and then try and collect that data, collate that data, and then come out. So it's great that you are thinking and talking. We are talking about it today. The empirical research that comes out from each school is a very important part of any education policy or any theory that we talk about, because unless it works on ground and unless there is evidence to back what we are saying, uh, it is talk. And as we have seen, there are several things that have been, I would say, imposed, I would dare say, imposed upon schools without a proper pilot, and they have backfired and had to be withdrawn in a hurry. The environment that you talk about, I think there was a time when the private service providers were looked upon as people who were trying to push a product. But in the pandemic and even before that, the realization has set in that they are much faster to move. So as they move quicker, innovate, find out new technologies that are there, conduct researches and come out with products, I think we will have to collaborate. We will all have to, this compartmentalization will have to go. And we will have to collaboratively think about how to always be on the edge, because you see, if you look at your computer science or your IP syllabuses, they're always lagging behind. And that's because you're still talking about the PC when the kid is already on an Android. So I think the environment per se, if you were to say that what is the environment for research in India or in schools, I would say that, well, that is not clearly spelled out. But the fact that we are talking about innovation all the time leads to research. Because when you are innovating, it is ultimately a part of research that you look at the body of knowledge that you have in hand today, and then you try and find a better way of doing it. And I think that is where research takes place. Research takes place in every classroom that a teacher teaches, because if you find that the results are not good, you go back and you come out with a new way of doing it. So I would say in that way, schools like yours, as you were making a common cause with Devika, that probably it is the and it's a common thing that the Cambridge schools do it. But it's not just Cambridge. Go into the hinterland, look at how people are struggling to reach to their teachers, how they're, the concept of a paper pizza and a maths teacher saying that, so many parts in it. There were jokes which are fitted on a particular community. I won't say that there. But when asked how many pieces to cut out of a pizza, he said, just make four, I can't eat it. So you see, in the ways of the jokes, people know, and we all know how mothers used to stuff our chapatis and tell the child that no, no, this is only one. So I'm just feeding you one, while the idea was to feed as much as possible. So these innovations have been a part of our life. Of course, Devika ma'am, Rajma Chawal goes to Jammu, can't survive without that. But then talking about research, it's good to see. In my own school, as Devika ma'am was talking about hers, just yesterday, I had two schools here in Udaipur, and the Department of Science and Technology has been a platform where we have been going, and two research projects from both the schools were picked up. Now I was asking teachers, I said, look, I mean, is it that there are lesser number of schools, or is it that you guys are doing a job? And they were very vehement in what the point they put across. They said, look, sir, we are not doing anything which is out of the box. It's not a mission to Mars. What we are doing is something that is every day here in school, but we encourage the children to do whatever they want to do with that scientific data that is coming. And that is what encourages them to come out. I mean, post pandemic, I've already had a class 12th student who's passed out and is giving me sanitizers back, saying, sir, this is for the school. I have done it a little better than the companies. So I think pandemic is a great opportunity, and people have been innovating. We just need to support failure, let them experiment. I mean, let the movie in January about Talpade flying the first airplane come out, and let us see whether we can take our rightful place in the world in terms of innovation. I hope you are all aware of that. That come January, there is a movie that's coming out where it is claimed that it was an Indian, a Maharashtrian, who flew a heavier than air plane much before Wright brothers. So back to you with all those thoughts on innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sanjay sir. Actually, yeah, I really appreciate the way you have put in about the research. And yeah, I agree. Teachers were innovators since ages. Since ages, we are using different techniques. But the only thing is, during pandemic, we have, presented in a very polished manner that we are putting innovations, we are getting innovation. No, we are doing R&D since long. We are innovating since long. And that's the reason we are well off, known across the globe, that India is known for the best research things. If you see vaccination also, we are the best. And we did that. We have proven that, yes, we are very smart across, that we can do R&Ds, and we are great innovators as well. So wherever you see, we are the first innovators.
Yes.
So we stand alone for that. So actually, you can see innovations are in our genes. We believe in researching. We come up with the new techniques. Our teachers, they never give up easily. They never go, and they don't go just stick to the rote learning. They come up with the innovation. The only thing is that some can express, some cannot express. Some can present it in a very polished manner, some cannot. If you see whatever things the Cambridge schools are doing, if you go to the remote places, if you go to the remote places, it's my voice is echoing.
Yeah, Surekha, I believe.
Okay. So if you see the
Ma'am Surekha, you welcome. We can hear you live and clear. Ma'am Surekha, you have inadvertently landed here. Welcome.
okay, so if you see the villages, they are innovating to so many things. The kids, they don't have Android phone, they don't have laptop, they don't have anything, but still they know how to communicate. They use their sleepers to pretend that they are talking on a phone. I think you
Yeah,
all must have
WhatsApp.
seen that
Yeah, that's
advertisement.
WhatsApp we've seen here.
Yes, so this kind of the dance presentations, what all things they are doing amazing without any resources provided to them. So even they are researching, they are even coming up with ideas and thoughts and innovation. And I think this new NEP will help a lot to everyone. So I really agree with this. And now my next question goes to Miss Kavita, ma'am. I think it was a long waiting for you, but then still, how much do the global schools contribute to the global best practices being assimilated into Indian education? What is your view on this?
Ma'am, the whole discussion what we had today, is moving around innovation, right? And
Right.
innovation is nothing but, in fact, I always believe that, when we were very small, and our parents and teachers, everybody used to say that necessity is the mother of invention. So invention is actually a byproduct of innovation only. So when we invent something, and when we have crisis, right? In crisis, the mind works more. We start thinking very deeply and very differently. If we do not have this resource, what should be the alternative? Or if we have to go for this, how can we reach what we have to do? And then we go for R&D. Then we go for, a different methodology. We start using different tool to invent something, to make something. So I always believe in this, if we have a diverse uh, cultural knowledge, in the beginning also I mentioned, it is very important for us to know, and we have to bridge this differences, what we have for the cultural. So if we know the cultural differences, and if we know to bridge the differences, it will be always helpful for us. Second thing, if we talk about the global, contribution, the global best practices, we all know that NEP also says that, in fact, they have introduced also that the small children should be taught in mother language, in their own mother language. So we all should respect our mother tongue, but same time we should know our local language and national language. And yes, it is very important. We cannot forget that global language English is also very much important. All the businesses, if the world has become very small, we go anywhere, everybody goes anywhere to do the business or to do any other things. So it is important for us to know our own regional languages as well as the global language, which is English. So when we talk about the best practices, this also has helped us a lot to understand English. Second, even critical thinking. First, very important that we have learned to. I will not say we have learned. Actually, we had these systems. It is our Indian system. If you see the Gurukul system, ancient system of our own country, our Bharat country, what we had the best education system. But forget, we will not go for that. Ki what happened, how it happened, and again we came to this kind of education system, and now again we want to go back to what we had earlier. We are giving different names, हम नाम अलग अलग दे रहे हैं, but we are still want to go back what we had, the rich culture of our own education system. So this has helped a lot, and if we know about the global practices, it will help us to understand things very nicely. And for understanding global practices, language, especially English language, is must, with the regional language also. So there are many practices, and I believe that English language practices, critical thinking, thinking skill practices, and many other different tools, innovative pedagogical plan, can say, that all we learn through best practices only. Thank you.
Yes, Kavita ma'am. Yeah, I feel what you have touched, that is a language. And a language should not be a bar for showing your skills or your potential in any of the field. And I feel NEP even has stressed on this, how it's going to be a boon for the students, those who are not getting a international curriculum, or those who are being deprived. So they can even avail, they can have a choice of their career, they can have so many benefits with the help of this language, and the language barrier should be removed. Basically, even I agree. But then somewhere, as you said, English is important to meet the benchmark of what we can say global. Yes, but somewhere before that, we need to make kids or the students understand the importance of any language, because thinking, implementation is two different things. So yes, language plays a very vital role in everything, and there are different tools to evaluate, to do the activities, and so many things. And the teachers are doing the best, and I feel all the schools are putting efforts into it, and we are doing best.
Just want to give one example, ma'am, if you permit. I
Yeah.
just came from Banaras. I was there, and a very small kid, he from tribal background. I can say that his younger brother, he was crying. He wanted to have that cart. That cycle comes. He said, "Nee, matlab he was saying in his own that language, Banaras language, UP." And that elder brother, he was not having any money, so he was running here and there, how to make cart and how to give this tool to his younger brother. What did he do? He will not believe, he had a Bata wala sleeper. He just removed him, brought somewhere from somewhere cutter. He just cut that and do, and from where he bought stick, I don't know. And he made that try kind of a cycle, and he has given to his brother. So that is the reason I always say that necessity is the mother of invention. So he
True,
felt
I
that
agree.
he was not having any resources, and then he thought, whatever was available, with that only he made a cart. So he had
Correct.
knowledge, course, knowledge is very important. He should have a knowledge that how it is made. With the knowledge, thinking process is very much important, and how to do the things with the available resources is again very important.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Sir, now I will move to Mr. Rajesh with a question where I would like to. This question I may ask to all my panelists because this is very much important by seeing the current scenario. How can we uphold the quality of education in a hybrid classroom that is digital and physical simultaneously? Because it is a need of this time. We all are struggling to open this school, but shut this school, to go with the physical, go with the online, offline. So, how will you uphold the quality of education in your school or in your society? Yeah, Mr. Rajesh, this goes to you.
Thank you again for that very bold question. Like it's very difficult to answer though. The reason being, quality is what it is what's perceived by others as they keep their certain standards and benchmarks. Parents have a different idea of learning. All these while they were kind of interferences. When the classes were offline, when things were before post pre-pandemic days, they used to interfere. Like the 19 months, it has become involvement, and that involvement is combined with interference as well. Like I won't say that it's a very positive thing, but again, so what has happened is the pressure on the school and on the teachers has doubled than before, because parents are constantly watching what's happening in the class. There are constant walkthroughs that's happening. Your heads of department, your academic coordinators, the head of school, the principal, they're all constantly watching, because you need to make sure that the classes are, the journey is happening. Now, quality, whether it is hybrid or whether it is a completely in-person classroom, quality is set by the school. It is the philosophy of the school. It is the ethos of the school. No matter what, it is just the method. It's just the approach that we are looking at. See, for example, since ours is an IB Continuum school, we have this ATL skills placed very strongly in our learning, teaching and learning. What we have done in the past couple of months is to equip our children to become self-directed learners. Because you don't know, like for example, now we are reopened in October, post the Puja holidays, we have reopened the school completely for grade 6 to 12, and then I'm not still open for grades 1 to 5 as yet. Now my question is, when are we going to run away from the boardroom? Because the new virus is coming out with in all fashion, so we don't know what's going to happen. So it is better to equip the children. In that way, you maintain quality. Quality is certain parameters that you decide for the school. It is different from one school to the other, one classroom to the other, one teacher to the other teacher, because the school has a philosophy. Ultimately, I define quality as no child is left behind in the process of learning. Children find a purpose, children find relevance in what they're doing. That way you ensure quality. And if you're asking about technological support, we are all learners from a non-Google scenario. We are much more intelligent than the present generation who completely depend on technology forever. So nobody can debate our challenges on our intelligence quotient, because it is always way higher than the others. So quality is something that I hold it as a parameter where you decide, is a teaching happening, is a learning happening in the right manner, is a child understanding what he's doing in the classroom? Are the teachers understanding why they are doing what they're doing? Are they teaching the child or are they teaching the subject? I can just teach physics and come out of the class, but the child wouldn't have understood anything. So you don't teach the subject, you teach the child. Are you unlocking the potential of the child? Is the child ready for a world that is so uncertain? Are you preparing the child for that? Are you preparing the child for a job market? Are you preparing the child for a career outside? Or are you preparing a child to survive in any scenario? What are you preparing your child for? If you're preparing your child for a job market, then your quality is down because you're focused on the content. If you're preparing the child to survive in any best scenarios that comes to him, like we used to call it as a VUCA word, now it has moved from VUCA to Bani, I'm sorry. Non-linear thinking, binary thinking. No, so we can come out with jargons. Ultimately, they should be in a field where they are exposed with so many uncertainties around them, and they should come out successfully out. And is the teacher preparing the child for that? That is what is called. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir, what you say, the quality of education, there are so many ways to find it out, whether teachers are doing justice, kids are really doing, they're learning from us or no, whether all those things, whatever, ensuring the quality by seeing that we are preparing the kids for the global challenges or the challenges faced by them daily. So all these things, yes, it is important, and as a school it is our moral duty to do that. Not only students, even we have to tell the parents to join our hand to help the students in grooming for preparing the challenges, overcoming with the challenges. So somewhere, yes, I agree with that, but the same question goes to with Devika ma'am here. How will you uphold the quality of education in a hybrid classroom?
Yes, Pratibha, I think all of us are struggling with that. However, as a school, I do keep thinking, and I do have these conversations with our team in school, that it is not just um, the fact that they need to come back to school now. The fact is that in the past almost 2 years, children have gone through a lot. The emotional, social, and emotional learning, more than anything else, has taken a huge toll on society as at large, global society at large. But I think children, the young ones, the teenagers, have a huge struggle on hand. So when we are bringing them back to our campuses, I think the focus has to be, first of all, on social and emotional support for our learners. Our teachers who have families at home, who have to leave the families, whatever state that is in, I don't know, but each one of them needs to be back on campus, and that is another big area where support is needed. Physical well-being of learners, teachers, where they have been sitting in front of cameras and digital equipments for so long, that the fact that they can come back to a place where they need to do some physical exercise to uh, again, I think, replenish. I would use the word replenish, because I think that that is what is needed. First and foremost, the focus has to be there. It has to be a soft and slow entry back to the so-called normal world, because there has been too much of an upheaval and too much of turmoil. Other than that, there has also been this whole big area of learning and assessment, which needs focus, because we need to figure out the level of each individual child, because each child has gone through a different scenario at home, and once they come back to the classroom, we need to figure out where each one is. That diagnostic assessment is very, very important in the hybrid mode. Also, the fact that the school leaders now have the added responsibility of giving their teachers the training of handling a situation where some children will be remotely placed and the others would be right in the classroom. What I find, ever since some of our children, grade 8 to 12, are allowed in Mumbai, came back to school, children have become so very mature. We don't really have to keep telling them. Our concern was that we'll probably have to tell children at all time, wear your mask and don't sit. don't go close to each other, but they have gone through that training in these almost 2 years, where they are very, very, very careful themselves. So we are not really so concerned about the fact whether they are maintaining enough distance or not, or whether they are covering their nose and mouth with the mask or not. They are already very careful. However, the flexibility that a teacher needs to address the queries, when I observe sessions online, I find that most teachers have to put in extra effort to take care of the online learners as well as the classroom learners, to ensure that both are getting the right amount of time and focus from them. I think it is again a long and difficult journey that we need to make, from hybrid sessions and eventually coming back to school. It will happen only if we are mindful about the fact that each one of us needs that little bit of extra emotional support, a little extra support from the leadership teams in the schools, so that the journey can be a little better, a little easier for all our
True, Devika ma'am,
families.
and it's
Yeah.
very true that when the students will be back and those who are back, we can feel their emotional touch with the teachers. They have not many things to share, and what all challenges they face at home, they are missing, and all those things when we could. So I even discussed with the same with my team that give a space to students now. Don't rush with the portion. Don't rush with the curriculum. We are here to just first heal them emotionally. It is
Yeah.
very much required at this moment. If they want to shout, let them shout. If they're screaming, let them scream. Don't stop, at least for some time. Let the school be noisy. It's okay. It's okay. But once they settle down, then you start. As you rightly said, the students themselves, they have become very mature enough to handle the situation. But somewhere still, few students, they need a special touch, special connect, emotional hearing from the teachers, and they need little pamper. They need that, because they are still missing school, they are still missing their peers, they're missing their social life. So they need all these things. So I really go with this that the students, they need that space in the school, and I feel all the educators will agree with the same. So now, Kavita ma'am, what is your input in the same? Would you like to me to repeat the question, or it's fine?
No, it's fine, ma'am. And
Okay.
already all the points, got covered in Rajesh sir's speech and Debika ma'am's speech. They elaborated very well. But I would like to add a few things. As my school is residential, I have residential students in my school, so they were in the campus. But same time, we had a provision of day students also. Matlab we have both the things, residential come day school. You will not believe that the differences what happened among the boarders and the day school children, because day school children, they always think that residential students are blessed because they are with us. For them corona didn't matter. Only as we stay in the family, so they are also with us, staying in the family, enjoying their sports life, having lunch together. Everything is happening as normally it happens. But when we call day students, after government permitted, so 1 week we just took time to convince them but they are so lucky, they are happening. Matlab, all these kind of a things only started, they started talking. So, and what they wanted us to give sports time. They were not interested in the class. They said, "वो तो हम online भी पढ़ लेंगे दीदी. You allow us to play together." And though they, as Devika ma'am mentioned very well, they have learned how to keep distance. They have learned, to put mask all the time. Even they, to sanitize their hand. But still, somewhere their heart says, कि इसको छोड़ो और हमें ground में खेलने के लिए बुलाओ. So every child, is actually dying to have a sports time rather than, being in the class and learning. So learning, they are ready to study through online mode. They are okay with that. But for sports, they want their friends company together, and we have kept them separately. But the boarders class is happening separately, and day boarders class is happening separately. So they want their friendship together. They want to come together. So finally, I will say that everything is okay, but physical presence is very different. That whatever tool we use, however we go for digital mode, but that happiness we will not able to give to children unless we start on the physical mode. Whatever innovation, whatever, there are many strategies,
Absolutely.
ma'am. There are 26 strategies, which can be, through which the students can be taught, irrespective of board, whichever the board we are having. I always believe board does not make much difference, whether your state board product, CBSE board product, or IB or Cambridge curriculum. Everything depends on teachers and the school's culture. How do they follow what they want to follow? And all the teachers are product of state board only, na ma'am. So
Yes,
it all depends on
yes,
that
Miss
person
Kavita,
going to the
I
past.
agree with you and I second with that. Yes, teachers, they are the main person to deliver everything, and they are the people who will connect the kids easily, whether it is online or offline. Because as I told you, online has become a habit for each and everyone now. They are even teachers are even going into comfort zone. Ma'am, online better. Please don't call the students. We will do
Yeah.
whatever you ask us to do. So these even I can feel that now teachers are even going into comfort zone. They don't want to come into physical and give their best. But though they are doing very well, in fact, our work has been reduced because the parents are the monitors now. The parents are the supervisors. They are the principals. Our work has been reduced because whatever thing goes here and there, immediately we get a mail from parents. "Okay, ma'am, this teacher has done that and all." So this is really working out. But physical presence, yes, for the kids, for the grooming,
Yes, yes,
for the
yes,
overall
yes.
development, it is important. Sports and all. Okay, so now one last again, Sanjay sir, it's you. I would like you to give your inputs on the same point.
So I guess it's my job to bring up the rear. Uh,
Yes,
we are overshot by 11 minutes now, so I'll keep it crisp and sharp
yes,
in
please,
terms
yes,
of
please.
technology, how it can be leveraged to ensure quality. Because when we started off with the pandemic, we used whatever came our way. WhatsApp groups were made, and Google came in, and we tried to chip in every possible way. But now I feel that here is an opportunity, and never let a good crisis go waste. Because when you are teaching in a classroom, it is difficult for you to do things like self-paced learning, adaptive learning, give effective feedback, because you have 20 kids at your hand, a certain time slot to do everything in. Now the opportunity is for the teachers, the challenge and the opportunity, how to design their examination pattern, their assessment patterns, how to design their classrooms, how to make sure that they become inclusive and differentiated at the same time, because you have mixed abilities, and those abilities would come more to the fore during such sessions. Because now you cannot physically walk up to a student whose mind wanders off. You will have to find another way to bring that kid back. So if we are able to do these things, as I said, uh, the self assessment of the kid, asking them to go back to block number one in case it was not done rightly, find another path of learning, and then all of them to come together in the end, I think we would be able to not only monitor teaching for better quality, we will have better control over what's happening, because there is a record. I mean, there's a record of at what time what has been submitted by a teacher. So the late submission is not a possibility. You have a window at which the paper opens up. There's a time when submission date is gone. So, and then there's a chart that comes in the end, so that which was submitted on time and which were late. So all those issues that we used to face in a classroom, where you told a kid, do it now, it's on the last 10 minutes, all that is now being taken care by the technology if you leverage it right. And then you have very clear performance indicators and process indicators that can be put in place. So I feel that, and Devika ma'am was talking about training and diagnostics. I mean, training is something that CBSE has really taken up very seriously in the last 8 months. If you see the Diksha app, if you see the amount of courses teachers are doing as of now, well, it's amazing. I haven't seen in all my years of working in education, teachers being so conveniently brought to a training platform and giving them an opportunity. And I see those phrases now being used in school, because all of them have done it irrespective of their subject. Otherwise, the trainings used to be either a generic class control training, better, how to teach, or they were subject specific, where they would not be talking on the same lines. But now when you see these teachers do them, and I mean, I won't say per force, but then as a part of their jobs, because come February, you can only be a school teacher in a system like this if you have gone through n number of trainings. So I guess quality is definitely going to come. I mean, I for one must have left the track after doing, back in time I did ISO 9001 schools. Those were a big USP. So after that, I think I also did it for NABIT now, because the QCI has been collaborating with NABIT for trainings for principals, trainings for teachers, things like those. And in time, it is going to be a compulsory part of your school portfolio for your reaffiliations. So I think the emphasis on quality is there, the technology is there, and it is easily available. It is up to the teacher, as you said, in the end it's the teacher who decides. So it is for the teacher. If they can have these kind of blockchains being put into place, and you have the self-paced and the adaptive learning platforms in use, I think the quality would be very well enforced and measured. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Sanjay, I second you with this same, that the teachers training, what CBSE is doing since 8 months, it's amazing. Even I'm witnessing is very in a micro form, but then it's the teacher who needs to really buck up. They need to be ready to accept the change, and I think they have done that. And it's not only the teachers; it is a chain from the stakeholders to the management, from the teachers and everyone. We all have to gear up with the same, and we all have to accept this. Now this blending learning will remain forever. It won't go, though the COVID will go, but the blending learning will be there, because now it will be demand of the time. It will be demand by the parents, it will be demand by the stakeholders and the teachers as well. So we have a very good option now to go with it. So now as a time constraint, we have to wind up. So I would like to have 1 30 seconds bite for parents to take away from this session from each one. So I'll start in the descending order. So Mr. Sanjay sir, I want you to give 1 30 seconds bite, and then Rajesh sir, and then Devika ma'am and Kavita ma'am. Then I'll conclude the session. So Sanjay sir, your 30 seconds bite.
All I like to say to parents is that yeah, the schools are doing their best. Kindly play your part.
Mr. Rajesh, your 30 seconds bite for parents.
Like so many other frontline warriors, teachers are also there, the frontline warriors. What we need, as Sanjay said, is your unconditional support to keep the learning going on.
Great. Devika ma'am.
Just a reminder to everybody that I think as long as there are problems, there will be innovative solutions. We just need to keep an eye on them. That's all. As parents and teachers, that is the best thing that we can do for our children.
Correct. Yeah, Kavita ma'am.
In continuation with Deepika ma'am, for parents and for teachers and for students, for everybody, keeping pandemic in the mind, right? We shall overcome, very soon. We do believe deep in our heart, we shall overcome very soon. Little changes.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. It was a great discussion. We had some amazing insights and discussion today. There's so much to talk about, so much to learn, so much to take away. We all have wrap, but I have to wrap on the session. Otherwise, Rajnish sir is already in the studio. Now I have to. So before I wrap up, I would like to take insight to came back with the panelists. Thank you once again to all my panelists for their valuable contribution in the discussion. I also thank to all the organizers, event team, sponsors, and the partners. Most of all, I thank all our audience and my dear children who all are listening this session. Before I wrap, I would like to quote one quote of Marlon, that education is for improving the life of the others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it. I hope we have an impact. So thank you once again to one and all present here. Thank you so much to wonderful
you.
panelists. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Good
Namaste,
day.
Thank you
everyone.
so much. Thank you.
Thanks to all the panelists. That was a wonderful session. And as Kavita ma'am mentioned, definitely we shall all overcome. and we will overcome it very soon. So thanks to all the panelists again at this panel
Thank you.
discussion, the third Global Education and Skills Conclave from APAC News Network. Wishing all of you a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Wish you the same.